Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. We're going to be talking about NXT today from November the 1st, 2022. Not my favorite episode of NXT. Not a lot going on. It feels like they're dragging their feet. I don't know what's happening here. Some of the creative decisions I'm not a big fan of, but they are planting some seeds for some things that might be interesting in the future. All right, let's talk about news and notes. Of course, number one note, there were some NXT releases. About 5 talents was cut from NXT. None of them were really worth, pouring out a little liquor over. The 5 that were released were Ru Feng. Oh, Christ. The second one was Demarius Griffin. Third was Erica Yan. The fourth was Sloane Jacobs. And the fifth and most prominent was Bodie Hayward, who was a regular on NXT as a member of Chase University. And they're actually utilizing, which seems to be an NXT staple now, they're going to utilize when people are released. Bodie Hayward put out a video after he was released, and he looked absolutely destroyed. He looked distraught. I mean, he wasn't crying like Rockstar Spud was crying, but you could tell that it hit him pretty hard that he got cut. He was a guy that he's been on the roster for a while. They did say they were going to start cutting people pretty regularly. Sloane Jacobs was a surprise to some people because they know her from the independents as the Notorious Mimi. So she was an indie wrestler who apparently wasn't up to snuff. The rest of them, I have no idea who they were. Most of these people wrestled on Level Up. I don't watch Level Up, so I can't tell you whether they were any good or not. But it was inevitable that NXT was going to start cutting talent. I mean, it was inevitable, so it wasn't really that big of a deal. Hopefully everybody lands on their feet and they turn out okay. So that was kind of the note. There's a lot of crap floating around out there, but nothing really newsworthy. If I stumble across it, I'll stumble across it. All right, so we got our opening segment, which didn't go the way that I wanted it at all. Bron Breakker started the show. He barely got a word out before Pretty Deadly interrupted. Pretty Deadly was mocking him, mocking his barking, saying he's sick of him. Bron, in a very bad accent, called them wankers. Pretty Deadly wanted all the attention on themselves. Wesley came out, and of course, this just led to a tag team match. This was very, very awkward. Incredibly awkward. There was even a long, awkward pause where I think Wesley gave Pretty Deadly compliment on their hair. I don't even know where we're going with that. But of course, Pretty Deadly was great because they side plate checked us to death on this joint. At some point, Bron Breakker and Wesley gave them a proper ring announcement, and Pretty Deadly just decided to just side plate check us to death at this point. But for some odd reason, Bron Breakker and Wesley are going to get a tag team title match. I don't know. I don't know what the purpose of this is. Why not just have each member of Pretty Deadly wrestle one of them for their title instead? I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I'm underthinking it. Maybe Shawn Michaels didn't think about this at all. In any event, that wasn't it. Later in the show, Wesley and Bron Breakker are getting ready when Robert Stone marched into the locker room, basically saying that Bron Breakker has been ducking Von Wagner. Bron Breakker tells Robert Stone that if Von Wagner got a problem with him, he got something to say, he needs to say it to him man to man. That was essentially it. So I was not thrilled about that. But we're going to talk about this whole thing before I break it down. Apollo Crews was next, saying that the NXT audience wants him to face Bron Breakker, but he's not sure Bron Breakker wants it because Bron Breakker has not mentioned him since then, and he understands that Bron Breakker is the champion. He's the one who's got to do the chasing, but he didn't expect to wear his running shoes. Von Wagner then stepped to Apollo Crews and basically told him to step off, that he got next when it comes to the NXT Championship. This leads us to the tag team title match. Carmelo Hayes shoves Wesley off the top rope. Wesley is then pinned by Pretty Deadly to retain the tag team championships. Wesley then commences to whooping on Carmelo Hayes' ass. At that point, Brian Breaker is attacked by Von Wagner, just with a simple boot in the face. At that point, we see Apollo Crews is watching the monitors, watching Brian Breaker get beat up by Von Wagner. And then we pan back a little bit more, and we see that JD McDonough is standing there too. And he's in Apollo Crews' face, saying that it's not really going to be that easy for Apollo Crews to become the man in NXT. So, there's no good prospects here. Look, Brian Breaker, I've been saying for several weeks now, he needs a rival. He needs somebody that he can get in there and work with and really do some stuff with. Apollo Crews is good, but I don't know if he's a long-term plan. We've seen this JD McDonough thing to death, and Von Wagner is awful. So there's no really good prospects here. Look, I'm guessing they're going to build to a Von Wagner, JD McDonough, Apollo Crews trio triple threat match or something. Probably some stupid fatal 4-way or something like that. They're better off just doing like an old school eliminator, Apollo Crews versus Von Wagner, and then letting them sort it out. And just having JD McDonough, who's already lost 3 times or something like that to this guy. We need to kind of move on. Unless they're going to go with Apollo Crews versus JD McDonough and have Crews beat McDonough, which would officially eliminate McDonough. But I'm really kind of over the whole NXT UK thing. Like, we're kind of done here. I just don't see it working out with, these guys beating the same people over and over and over again. And it says a lot. NXT was a lot more fun when everybody claimed to hate it. They have kind of sucked all of the fun out of NXT now. I'm not saying it's not fun at all, but a lot of the zany elements that NXT was on, they have tampered a lot of that stuff down. And now it's just a bunch of cold matches on the show, and it's really frustrating. And the matches where they try to have some heat is just people nobody cares about anymore. People who aren't over, or people who just, the crowd's just burnt out on them. We'll talk about that later. But, so Brian Breaker, despite the fact that he had a pretty good run, despite the fact that he got this tag team title match, with nobody was really all that interested in, because they knew Brian Breaker and Wesley weren't going to win. It was all about, how do you get out of this situation? Brian Breaker did get the crowd hype with the double vertical suplex, which was a great spot. Got to give Pretty Deadly credit for posting up on those suplexes. They both managed to do it, so it made them look like an absolute badass. He looked great. But you got to criticize WWE for not having a tag team for Pretty Deadly to wrestle, and not having singles competitors for these guys to wrestle, when you could just do, triple threat matches, tournaments, or whatever, in order to get this stuff started. We didn't need to see either one of these guys wrestling on this show. And why is Wesley, who just won a title, doing jobs? I hate Wesley. He sucks. He's boring. But for Christ's sake, why is he doing jobs already? He's been champion a week, maybe 2. Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And then Carmelo Hayes can't go beyond the North American title. He's just stuck there. He can't go forward. I don't understand that. I don't understand any of the decision making here. Von Wagner being involved with this. Fucking JD McDonough still being there. Carmelo Hayes stuck in the same place. Why are we moving so slowly here? What's happening? Can't we get this thing moving? You got another pay-per-view in December, I think. Isn't it? Was it December the 10th? You have a month, 4 weeks. We really could. Something tells me they're probably gonna do something silly. Like, it's gonna be a fatal 4-way, and it's gonna be absolutely ridiculous, and nobody wants that. Just been better off if we just decided who was going to be the number 1 contender, and then started building some heat between him and that guy and Brian. Because right now, Brian's just kind of floating around with the belt. I can't believe him and Wesley got a tag team title match, despite not having a tag team match together. Despite the fact that the only time they've ever really crossed paths was in this particular segment. And maybe 1 or 2 other segments probably weeks ago, maybe even months ago. It was awful. It was pretty dumb, but that's the way they book in NXT now, I guess. All stupid all the time, apparently. In any event, at the end of the Brian Breaker Pretty Deadly segment, R-Truth appeared because R-Truth had a match with Grayson Waller. This match went about maybe 2 minutes before R-Truth thought he was Kenny Omega, and Grayson Waller was out of position, which is the usual for rookies, and he really is the Miz. So R-Truth does a springboard over the top rope and didn't get all the way over. He got tripped over the top rope, damaged his knee on the ground. So now Grayson Waller is trying to make the most of this. During the commercial, he's doing the Steiner push-ups and he's doing a spinneroonie, and he's just trying to waste time because during this commercial, R-Truth is finished. He's not coming back. So the moment we come back from commercial, the bell rings and referees are carrying R-Truth out. R-Truth cannot continue. Grayson Waller wins via referee stoppage. Of course, R-Truth had no business at 50 years old trying to do a hands-free over the top rope flip. I mean, I made the joke online without knowing that he was legitimately hurt, that he must have been watching Dynamite and just thought to himself, hey, those 50-year-old guys are jumping off shit. I'm going to jump off some shit too. I'm probably in just as good a shape as some of those guys. And to be honest, he is. But he probably could have made it if it was a slingshot. If he'd grabbed the top rope and jumped over, he probably would have made it. But jumping without using the rope, he overestimated the spring that was in those legs. He got tripped up over the top rope and ended up hurting himself. This was awful. It looked like shit. Grayson Waller was out of position anyway. So it was all bad. Of course, I hope R-Truth as well. But this is also kind of have Triple H's fault, trying to put R-Truth in these really long matches. Like, this is what Vince was doing that was smart. He never put R-Truth in really long matches. And within the last 2 years, what was the longest match R-Truth was involved in? Within the last 2 or 3 years. As he got older, his matches got shorter, But he can still go. I'm not going to say he's the shits all of a sudden, but it was clear that he was trying to show out a little bit, and it didn't quite work out. And then you can just tell that Booker T, who was probably considering and really did recently wrestle a match, he's probably considering it, watching R-Truth like, hey, if that guy can still go, then maybe. But then he sees R-Truth getting carried out. He's probably like, no, sugar nugget, quack, quack, hell no. Down goes Truth. The truth is down. The truth is down. But I hope, of course, we all hope that he's okay. Grayson Waller cuts a promo after the match talking about being the most dominant in the company, and he's tired of people sleeping on him, and that it doesn't matter if it's Raw or SmackDown or NXT. This place is his house because he just beat a 20-year veteran by himself. Not bad for what was probably an impromptu promo. So that was okay. Grayson Waller is a pretty good promo. He's probably shaken up a little bit, but he did okay. Not as good as, the guys from Dynamite, but they had a lot more experience than Grayson Waller does. Now we get the Schism segment backstage, which was probably the best segment on the show. Matter of fact, I'm not going to even say probably. No LY. It was the best segment on the show. So the question basically is, why did Ava Raine join Schism? Now, Ava Raine says that she's been around WWE her whole life, and nobody really got a chance to know her. Nobody actually took the time to get to know what she wants, what she likes, who she is. Everybody thought they knew who she was. And so when she got injured earlier in her training, the only person who reached out to her was Joe Gacy. He's the only person that kept up with her, wanted to know how she was and wanted to know who she was and what she liked. Gacy got on the microphone and said that people always asked Ava Raine for things that they didn't earn, and they didn't ask her for anything. They accept her for who she is. And then they did like a promo where the Grizzly Young Veterans talked. I'm not even going to try to remember which one was which. But one of them said that they're under a heightened sense of scrutiny since Ava Raine joined, because other people lack acceptance and they are not responsible for the unfavorable reactions that they got. And said that Ava Raine said that she was not brainwashed because she was asked if she had been brainwashed. And she says, together, Schism can achieve more. And they're going to follow through on the promise to make an example out of Cameron Grimes. Because Cameron Grimes was the one who said that Ava Raine was brainwashed. So I really, really like this segment. And they talked about it without talking about it. You know, they didn't mention The Rock. They didn't mention who her father is. Same way they didn't really mention it for Braun Breaker either. But they mentioned, hey, she had been around WWE her whole life, and everybody kind of thought they knew who she was or what she wanted to be, and she wants to carve her own path and do her own thing. She's essentially what Raven from the Teen Titans at this point. You know, like she's a stereotype daughter. I hate you, Dad, slamming the doors, and Rock's downstairs in his sweater vest, and his daughter's upstairs listening to fucking Megadeth, and she's got a black fingernail paints on, and she's coming downstairs with a weird haircut and green streaks on her hair and all kind of shit. You know, it's like it's funny. WWE BT Sport reposted the promo from Schism with a question saying, what does The Rock think of Ava Raine joining Schism? And Ava Raine tweeted out that his thoughts are irrelevant. So they really got her going. She's really kind of rolling with this, and I like it. You know, I love this. I like how they understand that they're now under more scrutiny, that, you know, people are now paying attention to what they do now. More people are now looking at them. And they say that they're not doing this for attention. They're doing it to prove something. They got a message. They want to spread the message, and they're not going to stop spreading the message. You know, they're tired of people comparing them to other groups that are similar and all this sort of stuff. They're tired of that. You know, this is an opportunity for Schism to make a splash and to do something that maybe has been done before, but do something a little bit different. And I really thought they nailed this segment. You know, this sit down was awesome. It was really good. Top marks for the sit down segment. The rest of the show, I don't know. Anyway, Javier Bernal was outside of old HBK's office talking to Idris Enofe and Malik Blade, telling them that they're not championship material and that they should watch him tonight if they want to know what championship material looks like. And then Shawn Michaels told him that he had an opponent for tonight. And it turns out that his opponent was Odyssey Jones, who was, of course, good buddies with Idris Enofe and Malik Blade. Odyssey Jones would then go on to defeat Javier Bernal. Nothing of substance came out of this, except for Odyssey Jones made his big return. And he won a match against. It was a short match. You didn't really get a lot out of Odyssey Jones. He seems to be in almost the exact same shape as before he left. I thought he'd have gotten, you know, tightened up a little bit, but he still looks like Mark Henry. He still has the Mark Henry build. So I guess that's not going anywhere. Odyssey Jones is cool. He needs an edge. Like, I really wish Odyssey Jones was a heel. Like, as a babyface, he just comes across as being too cheery. And he's dangerously close to basically being Braun Strowman or Big Show. Or what Mark Henry was in his early incarnations, where I would rather him have a little bit of edge to him, you know? Like, I don't know. I don't want him to be, and I think somebody in my comment section said this about, like, McIntyre and Cross and how they, you know, and Omos and Braun Strowman, how these guys are just becoming big, breathe-a-lot guys like Snitsky and Heidenreich were. Like, you don't want that. You don't want the big dude who's just big and fat or big and muscular, but they're charisma vacuums and all they do is... That's not what I want from Odyssey Jones. But I do want him to have a little bit more of an edge so that he's not always smiley and, you know, all that kind of stuff. It's just, that's weird. I don't like that. I don't like that weird. Like, you could at least have some level of intensity. You know, I need some intensity out of that guy, because I definitely think he has something being with his size. you know. But, you know, it's going to have to take for somebody to tell them that's what they're looking for, you know. But I think Odyssey Jones could have a future. He should be one of the guys in the conversation that maybe we should be wrestling Braun or wrestling Wesley or something. Bringing him back and then not putting him in a good spot just doesn't make sense to me. Bringing him back just to put him with Idris Enofe and Malik Blade, like, even if they're friends in real life, still that trio is silly. It's a silly. Enofe and Blade are silly. I like them. They're charismatic. I like them. I'm not saying that, you know, they're trash or anything, but they're not mid-card guys. They're lower card guys. Why would you want to put a dude with so much potential as Odyssey Jones near the bottom of the card with those guys? You should be, you know, that's why I say we probably need like a tournament or something to crown, you know, a number one contender for the NXT title, because then he could have been in there with Apollo Crews or JD McDonough or somebody like that, even if he had to get counted out or whatever. You know, we pulled a thing where his leg didn't fully heal and, you know, he's got to get out of this tournament and come back and whatever. It would have been better than him getting a win over Javier Bernal, not getting to cut a promo, show any personality, not to show any intensity, and not to have a fucking angle. It's just make no sense. Now, what is an angle, and an interesting one, is Zoe Stark. She's backstage. She's still very frustrated. It's been 2 weeks already, and she's still mad. She snapped off on Indy Hartwell, who asked her what was wrong with her. She's like, you know what's wrong with me, which is, you know, a smart-ass remark, but, you know, Indy does know what's wrong with her. Indy then got smart back by saying, you know, you getting a rematch. Some of us didn't get rematches. Then Zoe Stark says that Indy Hartwell doesn't deserve a title shot. And so they started to argue back and forth, shoving each other. A bunch of people was in the locker room to separate them. This led to a match between the two later on, in which Indy Hartwell won that match. And, okay, Zoe Stark was frustrated during the match, and Nikkita Lyons kept walking around trying to keep her calm. But, of course, she could not do it. I don't understand why this is what Nikkita Lyons is doing. Why is she playing therapist to this fucking charisma vacuum cardboard cutout of a human being? Anyway, they're trying hard with Zoe Stark, I guess. That's the one they really like, apparently. So, Nikkita Lyons she really didn't do anything all night except for calm down, following Zoe Stark around. Calm down, just calm down, please, calm down, please. They go backstage. Zoe Stark is still upset because, of course, she just lost again. She promised Nikkita Lyons she's going to have her head in the game next week when they get the tag team title rematch. Casey Catanzaro and Katana Chance is standing off to the side, kind of giggling that Zoe Stark lost again. Say they don't have no momentum, and if they fight like that next week, they'll lose again. Of course, Zoe Stark promised that they wouldn't, and what can she really do about it? So clearly they're going to lose again, and clearly Zoe Stark is going to turn on Nikkita Lyons, which is all fine and dandy, I guess. But I would have liked for Nikkita Lyons to have a different role in this situation and not just be like, I don't know, what is she, like the poop scooper? You know, Zoe Stark is walking around starting fights and getting into arguments, and Nikkita Lyons is trying to make everything smooth. Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. You're like, come on. You know, you're supposed to be friends. Pull her to the side and like, look, man, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know, you need to tighten up. And show some personality on her end, too. Maybe show some frustration from her, too, about how Zoe Stark is going around here picking fights and trying to turn her friends against her. Because, you know, I guess Nikkita's supposed to be friends with all these people like Indy and KC Squared and all of them. And maybe that could be something that we could have used. Definitely got to do it better than she's just following Zoe Stark around. That sucks. That's stupid. That's dumb. That's a waste of her charisma and personality and everything. All right, so Thea Hale is backstage. She's getting hyped up by Andre Chase, and she's fired up because Thea Hale is really good at being energetic. So she's fired up, and then she kind of is depressed because she looks over and the Chase U flag is just kind of sitting there dormant, and she's like, "Mr. Chase, who's gonna fly the flag?" And then Duke Hudson bursts through a wall, grabs the flag, starts chanting Chase U, and starts waving it. So for the first time in forever, Chase U is, well, I wouldn't say forever for Chase U, but first time in forever for like Duke Hudson, he's actually over. People are actually interested in what the hell he's doing. So Thea Hale is wrestling Kiana James in a rematch of Kiana James supposedly wants to buy Chase U, the land that Chase U is on, which we haven't gone back to. We haven't said anything more about it. But I remembered it because it was one of the zany NXT things that we used to like. The match is short. During this time, Andre Chase ejects Duke Hudson and got in his face and ejected him. Duke Hudson did his, he took his L with grace and he left. Thea Hale ended up losing to Kiana James. Andre Chase gets in the ring and tries to help Thea Hale to her feet. He's then attacked by Charlie Dempsey, who I forgot was on this roster. I forgot he was still there. Charlie Dempsey, of course, is the son of William Regal. They have also not mentioned that. So Charlie Dempsey starts to whooping the ass of Andre Chase, stomping him out and everything. And Duke Hudson ran back to make the save, which got a great reaction because he, put his hand out to help Thea Hale get back up. So he's the new flag bearer for Chase U. He's taking Bodie Hayward's spot. There was chance that we want Bodie. People liked Bodie. Why WWE didn't want to keep him around, we don't know. We probably never know. At least not anytime soon, unless he wants to talk about it. I do believe he'll be back though. I forgot to say that earlier. I do think that Bodie Hayward would end up being coming back. I just think he did everything that he could when it comes to this Andre Chase thing, and it just wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. And that's their fault because they didn't try to push him at all. All right, so Briggs and Jensen are backstage with Fallon Henley. Fallon Henley is looking pretty tonight. She looks better than usual, actually. They're talking about not being able to stand Pretty Deadly, which is, of course, none of their business. They have no business being in the tag team titles. Henley gets a folder, and she's trying to get them to read what's on the folder because she's not going to read it out loud. Apparently, she can't read. She wants them to read it. So they're looking over her shoulder, and we don't get told what's in it. So we're left out in the rain of what's on this thing. We don't get to know. I just pray that we'd have nothing more to do with Briggs and Jensen. And maybe this is going to have a new storyline, a new angle to it, or something like that. Hopefully it doesn't involve Gallus. Or hopefully it's something like a letter from Triple H saying you're both fired and to jump in the nearest dumpster and for them to, put a sticker on it and says back, return to OVW. So maybe Al Snow could do something with them because these two guys fucking suck. They suck. I do not like them. I do not like the gimmick. I did not like the gimmick from the beginning. I still don't like it. I don't understand how they have become favorites of The Office, but sheesh. Next, Mandy Rose is out here celebrating her 1 year as champion, saying she's been 365 days of being the baddest, most dominant bitch in NXT history. Not bad for some eye candy. Saying that all she was to the people was a peach, a Barbie, but she needed to bet on herself, rebuild, and now Toxic Attraction is on top. Ratings and merch sales don't lie. Talked about what the title represented being the best, and she wears red bottoms and making being the champ look good. They had a vignette for her too, so this was really good for Mandy Rose. Then she said that nobody in the back is ready for her and all this kind of stuff, and then there was some smoke entering the ring, and everybody's like, what is this? And it's Alba Fyre. It is Alba Fyre. Alba Fyre, gory bombs. What was this? Gigi Dolan through a table. And I put my head in my hands and I was like, God, what the fuck? What? We're going, how many times did you got to beat Alba Fyre? This feud has no steam. The crowd did not care. Even after somebody got put through a table, the crowd didn't care about this. Jesus Christ. It feels like she's been feuding with Alba Fyre for 6 months. That's how it feels. I just can't believe it. Alba Fyre gets on the microphone and says that she took out Gigi this week. She's going to take out JC next week. And in 2 weeks, she's going to be ready to wrestle Mandy Rose for the title one last time. And I was just kind of like, man, I don't want to see that. I'm not even going to hold you up. I don't even want to see it. I know something happened that the match was kind of made short at Halloween Havoc, but that was it. You know, like, I think if there was going to be a time where anybody would have cared about that match, it would have been at Halloween Havoc. And I know they probably wanted Mandy to be the champion for a year. That's what they were waiting on, for Mandy to be champion for a year. Well, if that's the case, you shouldn't have had her beat this person twice already. Right? She shouldn't have beat her twice already. If you're going to go with fucking Alba Fyre, you should not have had Mandy beat her twice already. There were other people on the roster she could have beaten. Now you have taken the steam out of this thing. And Mandy Rose is in the exact same situation Braun Breaker is in, where people might be into Mandy, but they're not into her opponent. It's like, who the fuck is going to spend time giving a shit about Alba Fyre, who got everybody super excited before and then lost? That's the thing that you just can't do with a babyface. You can't. What they did with Drew McIntyre at Clash at the Castle, right? He goes and he gets the crowd 100% behind him, and then he loses. Or the crowd's deflated now. There's nothing you can do to get that crowd back. That crowd is dead on him. You can't come back to him for a while. You blew out that candle, all right? That's what they did with Alba Fyre. They blew out the candle. There is no way of this. You can just continue this. It had to be not just one person, but maybe 2 or 3 people in between her getting another title match. Going right back to her basically says that the division is skinny and we don't got nobody else. And basically, hey, we're just kind of waiting on Mandy to become champion for a year, and now we're going to take the belt. Because even if she loses now, fucking Alba Fyre is going to be one of the least over champions in NXT history. Because people are going to be like, yay, she won. And then immediately the next week, they're going to be sitting on their hands, looking at her like, just because it's exactly what happens with AEW. You know, even if they do decide to give the belt to somebody when they're at their height, you know, when you taking the piss out of them, like you did with Thunder Rosa, you kind of just sit back and be like, okay, well, what's the plan now? Like, I don't see any plan for fucking Alba Fyre when she wins this belt. I don't see anything happening after that. What do you got after this? You know, like, maybe we were just better off moving on, you know, and not going with Alba Fyre. But this is absolutely ruining the Mandy Rose title run. It's not good. There's been weeks and weeks and weeks of this Alba Fyre shit, and it's not working, you know. And when she did finally get over and be made to look like a threat, they beat her. So it's their own fault, you know. I'm disgusted, legit disgusted by this Alba Fyre thing. We got another Scripps promo. This is when I realized that the Scripps thing is actually a poem. It's poetry. If you read if you go back and listen to it on Twitter or something like that, you'll see that it's actually written in rhyme. Now, I'm not entirely sure who it is. I don't have any idea, and I don't really have any guesses. I'm just going to guess maybe some PC talent. But it sounds like it's going to be some kind of dark poet, you know. I don't know. Could be interesting. Could not be interesting. I don't know. We also got a promo from Donovan Dijakovic. Apparently his name's not going to be Dominic anymore. It's going to be Donovan. And it's going to be Donovan Dijak, which is his name in Ring of Honor. I don't care about this guy. I'm telling you, he's got as much charisma as Burning Man. And I'm pretty sure, at least Burning Man is on fire, for Christ's sake. This guy he's basically, he's not, oh God, we'll see. But he's talking about, this return is about justice, the high order of justice, or some such nonsense. I'm like, bro, nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit. You have to be one of these work rate, happy fucking marks to care about fucking Donovan Dijakovic or Donovan Dijak or Dominic Dijak or whatever the fuck they're calling him this week. You can T-bar, you can change the name on a fucking busted up car. It's still a busted up car. This guy, this motherfucker, this bird ain't gonna fly. All right? It's that simple. This bird ain't gonna fly. You can call it a penguin. You can call it an ostrich. You can call it whatever you want. That bird ain't gonna fly. It got wings, sure. It ain't flying. It ain't going nowhere. All right? It ain't going nowhere. Nobody's ever gonna make $1 off of Dijak. And I've seen people say, well, somebody's got to fill the Cesaro role. I'm like, okay, well, if that's what you want, fine. If you want, and I don't even see his matches being that great that he's going to fill the Cesaro role. I'm like, whenever I've ever seen a Donovan Dijakovic match, and I was kind of like, damn, this guy's really good. I'm like, I've never seen that. I've never seen the kind of shit that these people are talking about because I don't watch this guy wrestle in a fucking National Guard armory in the middle of nowhere in California. I'm not watching that shit. He's been on NXT before and not having great matches, not having tremendous. Oh, he had a good match with Keith Lee. So what? He had probably, 1 or 2 good matches with Keith Lee, which consisted of them being big guys doing hurricanranas, moonsaults, and kicking out of each other's finishers. Okay. For fuck's sake, Barry Horowitz could have had a great match with Shawn Michaels if he got kicked out of the Sweet Chin Music, but he wasn't going to. I'm going to be permanently just bitter. How about we bring back Bodie and get rid of fucking Dijak? Send Dijak ass to AEW where he probably would flourish on Dark. Wrestling bums. Because that's apparently what he's good for. He sucks. I don't care about this fucking guy. All right. Valentina Feroz. She's backstage and, she's good friends with Sanga. And she wants Sanga in her corner. And Sanga says that she's strong, but he can't do it. Wants her to believe that she can do it on her own. Veer then appears. He has a decent reaction, believe it or not. Because Veer, got no reaction on Raw. But on NXT, he got a decent reaction. He said that he has come to NXT because they have taken Sanga's kindness for weakness. Sanga didn't respond. And he asked them, do they honor you, brother? And then Sanga just kind of looked a little bit dejected. And he said, that's why I am here. So apparently Sanga has been very nice to people. And they don't really appreciate it. So Veer is there to make sure people appreciate Sanga. Okay. All right. I'm willing to hear that one out. I want to see what they're going to continue to do with the Creed brothers. But I'm willing to let this one ride. All right. I'm going to let the beat play on this one. So Valentina Feroz is a little bit disappointed in herself. She's kind of sad and, melancholy. And she has a match with Cora Jade. Cold match, meant nothing. Cora Jade wins. Of course, match was probably too long. Valentina Feroz is not bad. She's just, English is not her first language. And she hasn't been given a lot to do. She hasn't been given a lot to do. Cora Jade, of course, is being rebuilt after she lost to Roxanne Perez. So Cora Jade, after the match, starts getting some more heat on Valentina, threatening to hit her with the kendo stick. And then Wendy Choo comes out to make the save. Wendy Choo swings the kendo stick like she's trying to, swat a fly. She wasn't like she was trying to hit a person. It was like she was trying to swat a gnat or something like that. It's just wild swings all over the place. Cora Jade, of course, flees. So now Cora Jade is about to get trapped in the vortex of Wendy Choo, which did nothing for Tiffany Stratton. Now she's going to do nothing for Cora Jade. And look, I don't hate Wendy Choo as much as everybody else because she stopped doing a lot of the stuff that I didn't like in terms of like the sleepy elbow drop and, wearing big bunny rabbits on her shoes and all that kind of stuff. She still wears pajamas and all that kind of shit, which I'm not a fan of. But a lot of the excess, the pillow to the ring, the body pillow, and all that kind of stuff, it kind of stopped. So I can't complain too much, So at least that part of this whole thing is over. Cora Jade deserves better. She should be in the title picture, or maybe not in the title picture because she did just lose a feud. Which begs the question, why is Roxanne Perez not in the title picture? Why does Alba Fyre immediately get a rematch? I don't know. Maybe Cora Jade should be asking that question. Why does Alba Fyre immediately get a rematch? He should just attack Alba Fyre and beat her with a kendo stick. Okay, so that's essentially NXT in a nutshell. That's everything. Well, no, there's one thing left. Tony D'Angelo. Tony D'Angelo appreciates Stack's hard work and said that he's got to beat up on Hank Walker next week. I'm not looking forward to that. Hank Walker is not bad, but something tells me if Hank Walker is going to be there, Quincy Elliott won't be far behind because they're doing something weird with those two. Anyway, they was interrupted by Elektra Lopez, who for some reason came into the men's locker room. Tony D'Angelo says that he's glad to see her by herself, and she says, yeah, it feels good to be her own boss, and if you thought she was dangerous before, she's going to be really dangerous now. And I like this. I still think she should be in a tag team with Zelina Vega, but if they're going to let her do her own thing so she can develop her own promos and personality and stuff like that, then okay, all right, fine, that's cool. I don't got no problem with it. I'm willing to give it a chance, but they have to actually prove that it was worth it. She has to do something that's better than Legado del Fantasma, which is going to be hard for her to do. But that's what they got on their plate. All right, so we started talking about these NXT releases. Let's end talking about some of the weird things that was going on. So we heard that there will be NXT releases like during Raw. It was a lot of talk about there being NXT releases. And people was trying to figure out who these NXT releases were. And we started seeing over the course of the next several hours weird posts from some NXT talents. Like Quincy Elliott posted like a random broken heart on his Twitter account. And people started to be like, oh no, Quincy Elliott, you got fired. I'm so sorry to hear that. And other people were very happy that he supposedly got fired. And then he posted like immediately afterward, I'm still employed, yada, yada, yada. And just kind of going off on the people who wanted him to get fired. And I thought that was weird. Then Amari Miller posted a picture of her, with her parents, as she had just won a match in the PC. And it was like this little note like, oh, this is my favorite moment of, I won my first match in the PC in front of my parents. It was such a great moment. It was, my favorite moment since I've been here, yada, 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 which led people to be like, oh no, Amari, please don't tell me you got fired. And later on, she was just like, oh no, I didn't get fired. I was just posting something sappy about my parents. And I was just kind of like, what the fuck? Like, would you please read the room? Like, you got people saying, oh, guys who have been released from NXT, and then you just, oh, this is the time to post shit that makes people think that I got fired. And then when they jump to the conclusion that you're posting a goodbye message or something like that, you double back like, oh, no. I'm not getting fired. No, that didn't happen to me. It's like, okay, so you wanted the attention. That pissed me off so bad. It pissed me off so bad because I felt like, man, people were on pins and needles. Well, some people were. I really wasn't. But some people were on pins and needles because, they have faves. And they're thinking their faves are going to get cut. I'm like, well, they pretty much said if you're not on NXT regularly, you probably will get cut. So Amari Miller would be on the chopping block. She's been on in NXT for a while. And she's not an NXT regular. So if she's not going to be in this round of cut, she might be in the next one. So it might have seemed reasonable that she would get cut. Now, Quincy Elliott was on TV just a week or two ago. So maybe he wouldn't have been a reasonable cut. But when you toying with people's emotions like that just for attention, to me, that's kind of fucked up. And that's part of the social media generation that we're in. And I waited until the end to talk about this because I didn't want to front load it. And, I just felt like just get the show out of the way first before I get into all of this shit. And basically, I just remembered it. That's another reason why I waited till now. I remembered it like as I was already recording the video. I was like, I'm not about to double back in the middle of the fucking show and say, oh yeah, this is the stuff that happened. But this is such a rare thing. And when I saw the Bodie Hayward video, it wasn't until I noticed that he had changed his name on Twitter that he actually did get cut. He was one of the few people who confirmed that he was cut. So I just think like, yo, please don't fall for people who are, maybe you're a little bit more into the wrestling space than I am. And these people who out looking for sympathy and out for not paying attention to what's going on around them, and they're posting shit to make people think that they got fired to get that sympathy, and then they double back like, oh, no, I'm not getting fired. It's like, come on, what's happening here? Now, I think the Quincy Elliott thing was probably about Takeoff from Migos. I think that's what his shit was about. That seemed to be what it was about. But it's, it's very, that's just me throwing him some bail and saying like maybe he wasn't attention seeking, but something tells me that he probably was, because like a context free thing like that, when you know that there is a rumor that people have been fired, and you know that because you're online and you're in NXT, and these people have, Quincy Elliott argues with people in the dirt sheets and stuff like that, so he knows that people are at least aware that there's probably going to be some cuts, at least recently. So posting some kind of context-free shit just to get attention is kind of unfair. And I think it really manipulative to the fan base. And it's not fair. And I don't like that shit. But ultimately, it's the fault of the people who are super involved, that they are jumping to conclusions. So it is what it is, but I do find it to be manipulative. But what do y'all think? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. What do you think of NXT? Are you excited for Von Wagner and Brian Breaker, Alba, Fyre, and Mandy Rose? You mean to tell me those things don't get your spurs jingling and jangling? It's not sending electricity up your spine? Of course not. It's dumb. Sean, do better.
MagMongoSlade. Best house I ever drew, Daddy.